After 6 long years, Usher has finally released a new album titled Coming Home. It's an eclectic collection of music that first and foremost showcases that Usher continues to set the bar for R&B excellence. He's not some legacy act pulling up to the music scene with a skateboard going, "How do you do, fellow kids?" He is timeless. However, for that very reason, there's been some conversation about how this album may not have been exactly what we'd expect from the king of R&B. Maybe not what we hoped for. Why? Well, here's why. The album Coming Home is meant to represent a return for Usher in multiple senses. A return to mainstream music after 6 years, a return to his roots of Atlanta, Georgia, and most of all, a reclamation of his kingdom, the R&B genre. And that's the part I want to focus on here for a bit. Part of the reason you know exactly what I'm talking about when I mentioned the oh-so-romanticized subgenre of 2000s R&B, it's because that vibe was the dominant representation of R&B music at the time. Whether you think of John B, Sade, Jodeci, Jagged Edge, Ashanti, Neo, all of that. Now if I asked you to make a playlist describing R&B in the 2020s, it would cover so many different sounds and artists all over the world. There's that classic R&B we know and love, of course. There's trap soul, there's the trendy alternative R&B scene, Afrobeat, etc. etc. It is a genreless genre, and as I alluded to in my Confessions deep dive, this is precisely what I love about R&B. Kicking it back to Coming Home, there are many people who are expecting Usher to come back with his most mature sound, possibly leaning into the more jazzy, live instrumentation he's been showing off this past year in Glue. And his performance of Good Good on BBC Radio.
You got somebody and you know that it's wrong. You stay cause you love them, but you know that it's wrong. Tell them, I think it'll be better if it ends, cause I can love you better as a friend.
That is not at all what we got, as the album incorporates a couple songs that are clearly meant for the clubs and the radio. For example, Standing Next to You featuring pop star Young Cook, or maybe the funniest song in Usher's discography, A-Town Girl, which follows this recent trend of sampling popular songs, in this case being Billy Joel's Uptown Girl.
I got an A-Town girl, she keep a blicky on her just in case somebody tries on sight.
If you take nothing else from this review, just know that you have to listen to this song. Now in getting to the review part of this video, I don't mind this. The harsh truth of the matter is part of being an artist today in any medium means knowing what sells, what'll appeal to everybody, so that you can make enough money to make the things that aren't for everyone. I'm usually pretty annoyed at this trend of sampling or interpolating already popular songs, but I like that he took a different direction with it versus just straight up ripping off the chorus. But to be honest with you, these tracks are not why I keep coming back to this album. It's everything starting from Bop all the way to the end. And it's the writing, cause man, his pen is still as sharp as it's ever been. Usher continues to put on a writing masterclass with lyrics that ooze charisma. Whether he's giving us campy, fun lines like the chorus on Big.
When I was a kid, I would go to McDonald's. I would never order small. I would get it big.
Or it's him setting the mood on songs like I Am the Party.
Don't tell me that it's time to go faster. I wanna be caught in your rapture. I want my energy to match yours.
The writing is probably the thing I took away loving most about the album. The root of this album is love and all its complications, and you can really feel that throughout the album. Like, don't get it twisted, this is very much the same artist that made Confessions, as you can tell in songs like On the Side and Kissing Strangers. But we also get a steady diet of late night songs that give us that magical feeling, like Room in a Room, Bop, One of Them Ones, and Stone Cold Freak. Each song is polished to perfection and is bound to get stuck in your head at one point or another, but in getting to the part where I mentioned some stuff that I didn't like as much, first thing I can think of is that it is way too long. The skeptic in me thinks that the hefty 20 song count is to bump up the streams. Meanwhile, the optimist in me wants to believe Usher truly wanted to share us all this new music, but when it comes to the listening experience by itself, there are a couple skips like Margiela or Cold Blooded. These, as well as a couple of other songs that have a similar vibe, could have been consolidated and put out on the deluxe, since everybody's doing that. Now this next one, I don't know if I'm in the minority on this one, so I want to hear your thoughts, but I feel like this album just doesn't have that record, you know, that sultry, slow jam that we've come to know Usher for. There's no nice and slow or tell me type record this time around. There are late night records, but they either feel a little too intense or a little bit too bright to scratch that itch that the album left me with. That's actually how I describe the album as a whole, is that it feels very neon. I think the album would have benefited as a whole if Usher allowed the LED lights to dim a little bit and just put some candle lights on. But that's just me. I'm recording this a little bit after editing the video just because of the inclusion of Naked and Believe on the expanded edition. And these songs do fit the criteria of the things that I'm looking for from the album, but Glue just has such an aura about it, and I'm gonna just die on that hill, I guess. I think it's the way that the song crescendos and just the swing of that song that gives it a different energy that I feel like was really needed on the album. That brings me to my next thing, which is that yes, there are too many songs, but there are also some things I would have done differently with the sequencing of the songs. Little things like having Risk It All featuring Her, which is this amazing heartfelt ballad about falling in love despite the risks. Having that come right after the party songs and before the late night songs is a little confusing. Generally, I get the sense that Usher wanted this album to feel like one long party, but because of the way the songs are laid out, it kind of numbs some of the real feelings that this album gives off. I was actually bored during my 2-hour train ride to work and cooked up a little track list that I felt would have made this an all-timer. It includes tracks like Glue and Bad Habits, which were singles released in the lead up to this album that I have absolutely zero idea why they were left off of the final track list. Glue in particular feels like it was sorely missing from the track list, as it would have filled that void of that slow jam. I think it does a better job at flowing from one track into the next, and is also laid out in a way that tells a story of the hopeless romantic that Usher describes himself to be. Check it out, linked in the description below, and whether you think it's better or worse, talk to me in the comments, because I'd love to know, am I just crazy right now, or am I onto something? And on that note, let me know what you think about the album. What were your standout songs? Did you think Usher missed out on an opportunity to shake shit up with a more mature sound, or do you like him having something to prove with this album? Have I been singing these songs in my head all week? Yup. Do I wish we got a different album? A little bit. Did I get tickets to Usher's concert? Abso-fucking-lutely. Although this album has its shortcomings and has that sequencing issue I was talking about, I will say this album definitely made my tum-tum feel good. Coming Home is full of infectious, feel-good music that'll have you bop in your head, singing along, thinking about that special somebody or that somebody you left behind. My favorites have to be Room in a Room, I Am the Party, and One of Them Ones, because as Usher says,
it's one of them ones.
Again, if you want to see how my edit of the album would sound, check out the Spotify playlist I made that'll be linked in the description and comments below. But I digest. This has been P.O.'s Place. Y'all are welcome back anytime, but until that next time, take care.